Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about awesome.
Yeah.
Aaron, what was the last awesome thing that you did?
Well, aside from playing that game, the last awesome thing I did, let me ponder that. Oh, rearranging my room. I feel pretty awesome about that.
You should feel awesome about that. Your room looks great.
Thank you, man. I don't trip over stuff now.
For those of us that are not watching the video version of the podcast, give us a short little audio tour of what you've got set up there all around you. What surrounds you currently?
Well, I've got the Amiga 1000 back there, and then right in front of it, I've got the Amiga 1200 sitting there, and behind it, which you can't see, is the C64 Raspberry Pi gimmick. You know that shtick. On the shelf directly behind me is the Coco Atomic Pi gimmick. The Coleco Atom is down there. I've got my Pentium PC here. There's a working C64 here, Atari XEGS here, Unamiga here, Coco here, TurboGrafx, Super Nintendo, and my PC. Oh, an Apple. I got a lot of crap. You know,
and you didn't even mention your shelf full of role-playing books behind you.
That's true.
How many shelves is a 5-shelf bookcase jam-packed to the gills full of role-playing books?
There's a lot of stuff back there, yeah. I don't throw away much, unfortunately. So it's not. There's 3 shelves of role-playing books, and then a bunch of other wacky books that I just have accumulated over the years. You know, and that's not counting this other shelf, which has just got miscellaneous garbage in it. Thankfully, off camera.
Now, you know, you've mentioned your vast collection of Amigas, and I sent you a message when you showed me the picture. I was like, why do you keep that 1200 around, that nasty old 1200, when you have that bright, shiny new Unamiga FPGA, the future of retro gaming? Why do you keep, kind of old, moldy hardware around like that?
Well, I was appalled at that statement, which I still am. And like I told you, I fired the 1200 up this week to play Awesome One because the Unamiga has a keyboard that doesn't work that well. But hey, I like all this stuff. I'd be using the 1000 if I could find a keyboard cord that would work in it, which is still baffling to me.
Now, what happened to your space bar on your Unamiga?
It's this Amiga has problems, keyboard problems. It's got the LEDs don't come on. This is why this was the perfect candidate for the Unamiga, because I knew it was a dud. It was a dud 500. So I need to go there and clean it and stuff. It's never been something I needed that much, and so I just never had bothered to fool with it. But who knows? I don't know what's wrong with it.
Well, Aaron, it's been a pretty busy week, so we should probably cut the chit chat, as it were, and dive right into all of the goings on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, man, we've been rocking and rolling this week. A lot of interesting stuff, I think, this time around. We'll start like we always do with last week's ARG Presents, and this is another in a long line of wheel spins that make me want to strangle Brent. This time around, it was a Cibico Extreme. We also covered the Cibico Classic. These are handheld game slash sort of PDAs from the I think early 2000s that were manufactured in Russia, but are definitely not Russian. I don't know if you listen to Showboat, but the one of the guys that worked on this was a marketing director from VTech.
VTech, right?
So there's a VTech connection here. These were actually not crap. I mean, these were actually pretty decent little devices, but they got sort of overtaken by the cell phone craze where cell phones became more affordable and could do more. But these were neat. They had messaging that you could. I think the messaging was like a tenth of a mile but they could message one another, and they could actually bounce messages from one to the other to increase the distance. That was kind of cool. So we had a lot of fun with that. The games were not great, but they were all free. So what can you say? So that was something we put with. This week we have an equally obscure system, but if you're a British UK historian of computers, then you might recognize the NASCOM 1 and 2. I sure as heck didn't. I can tell you that. I had never heard of the NASCOM, but by God, we're tackling that this week on the show, so it should be interesting.
I can't wait.
Yeah. But let's talk about what went down last Saturday. It was a gathering, Bode.
Yeah, it was.
It was a gathering of knowledgeable,
people talk about
handsome men.
People talk about Woodstock as one of the milestone events of a generation. People will look back to the year 2020 at the inaugural meeting of the International Computer Club with the same amount of fervor.
Well, I will say this, and I talked to you about it. In fact, you mentioned on show, I was sweating this one from a technical aspect, and from the fact that I shouldn't have worried, to be honest with you, because the folks we had in here, these little get-togethers are made by the people that show up and talk. And we had everyone that showed up, we had something cool to talk about, and it went well. I was pleased with the whole thing. International Computer Club Meeting 1, which was last Saturday. We went about 3 hours, Bode.
Yeah.
Which I had earmarked about an hour and a half, so we actually went a lot longer than I thought. We had a real good turnout. We had a real good turnout in the chat. And we talked about, everything from 3D printing to Flax, wacky movie poster, Raspberry Pi project. We talked about, we saw Edvin's man cave. We saw him live in action and his crazy beer still. We saw that. So we had a great turnout. Lots of other stuff. We went over like a bunch of interesting stuff. So if you're interested in checking it out, I finally managed to get that thing up on YouTube, and it is available. 3 hours of computer talk with just buddies from around the world. It was truly an international turnout, Bode.
Yeah.
I was surprised. The one thing that surprised me, though, of all the people that turned out in the video, we had no one from the UK in there.
Oh,
that's kind of.
I never even thought about that, but you're right.
That's our number one market. We didn't have anybody from the UK in there, so hopefully, if we ever do one of these again, we'll get some our UK buddies to pop in. But we had a good time. I had a real good time with it. So a lot of fun. Even you stopped in for some disk drive tips, Bode.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I had lots of tips to give.
Yeah. There you go. Here's another release this week. Ask the Amigos Part 2. I don't remember what we talked about. This was a couple weeks ago when we recorded this, but we always have fun with these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was anything too controversial in there, Bode. What do you want? You want to talk about this Amigos live banter? Is this just one of your plays? Is this what was going on here? I know you remember this.
So every week,
is this our live show?
Yeah, every week we release our full uncut live show from the week before. And so if you want to listen to us ramble on about nothing, have various audio problems, then this is the video for you, my friend.
Did you record all the audio that we just did before this show?
Yeah, that's going to be on this week's Amigos Live.
Oh, good. So people can hear my unbiased, 100% top shelf rant on Sanwa parts.
Yes.
That'll be great.
Yes.
Here we go now. Rob Flack O'Hara is back with another Sprite Castle plays. I've got to tell you, I've never heard of this game, Bode.
Mancopter.
Have you heard of this?
Not until I listened to the episode. I just listened to it today on the way home.
Yeah, I just started listening to his Sprite Castle, but he plays Mancopter here. I've got to say, just the name alone screams 80s to me.
Yeah, it does.
And like, how was this not a TV show right here? Mancopter.
It could have been on right after Band of Mole.
That's right, and right before Street Hawk.
It's the man hour.
Right into that 8:30 time slot. So catch Sprite Castle plays. Rob is killing it with these. I love them. It's great to see him play it, and then you get to go hear the podcast and learn about the game. So I think this is great.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Bode.
Very cool.
Anything you want to add to this?
I do want to add that Rob talks about the racing genre of games. Are there any other games where you actually race from right to left on a horizontal playfield. Can you think of any right off the top of your head where you can do that, Aaron?
Right to left. I'd have to think about that. It's got to be a very, very few. I can't think right off the top of my head. I really can't. Can you think of any?
No, I can't think of any either. The only thing I can think of one. Actually no, because it's not a race game, but this is a game where you do horizontally scroll from right to left. Balloon Fight. When you play the adventure mode, just like the endless mode, you are going from right to left on that game. But yeah, racing games where you're going from right to left. If you know of one, leave us a comment in the YouTube here, because this Mancopter might be the only example. Mancopter stands alone, Aaron.
Yep, hey, you got it. I think that's all we got here on YouTube this week. We had a good week.
Yeah, I do want to give just a little preview of what we talked about this week on This Week in Retro, Aaron.
Oh yes.
On This Week in Retro, which I need to pull up the correct URL. We talked about, Neil and I talked about Hot Shots Racing. Have you heard about this game, Aaron?
I have not.
This is a game that's supposed to be the spiritual successor to Virtua Racing, that classic Sega racing game. Yep. We talked about the human-powered Game Boy clone that's powered by your button mashes, Aaron.
Man, Brent could power a city with it.
I know. He was the first person I thought of. We talked about the Sonic Encyclopedia. There's going to be a new Sonic Encyclopedia, so get ready for that. 30 years of Sonic the Hedgehog and all of his friends. So make sure you check out This Week in Retro for this and so many more stories. We're available on YouTube now. Full episodes available now on YouTube on the This Week in Retro channel. So check that out if you like things other than the Amiga.
Yeah, man.
All right, Aaron. It's been a busy week. It's time to call in the big dogs, the big guns. It's time to call in the robot.
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, we're going to lead things off here with a new live Amiga jungle DJ mix from our buddy, Ravi Abbott. Ravi is back. He's spinning those discs. And by spinning those discs, I mean he's pressing keys on an Amiga 1200 keyboard. He is playing the mix. I listened to a little bit of this. This may shock and surprise you, Aaron, but I'm not the largest fan of electronic music.
No.
This is jungle, which I guess is different than other things like garage, house.
Let me
break it down for me, Aaron, because I know techno is your bag.
Well, hold on a second. It's funny you should mention this,
and I mean that sincerely.
Well, I do like techno, but it's not like I'm an expert or something. We have a fellow on our Discord named HSI.
Yes, Heavy Systems Inc.
That's right, and he put this video up this week, and it was this guy talking about jungle. Okay, now listen, we're not from the U. I know it's stunning, but we're not from the UK. All right. So I don't think jungle was a thing here in West by God, Virginia.
No.
But I watched this video, and it actually educated me a little bit on what this stuff was.
Okay.
And how it came up. What they did to And I say I can't educate you, but the video could. It's a good video.
I'll have to check the video out.
Yeah, it's good, and I guess he's affiliated with this fella that is in the video.
He's affiliated with Ravi?
No, not Ravi's video, but the video I watched a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Ravi's affiliated with he's a man that stands alone.
He does.
He's spinning discs. He's spinning floppy discs, dude. That's what he does. He's scratching them too. But yeah, this good stuff from Ravi. He's always dropping the good tunes. But yeah, I learned about jungle, so thank you, HSI. Appreciate that, man.
Next up on the docket, Aaron, there's a new Amiga port of the popular C64 game Dodgy Rocks.
I like the name.
This is actually, I don't know if that's true or not. That might have all been a lie. I think that this was originally a C64 game, but I'm not sure. I might be thinking of a different game too. It's hard to know what I'm thinking of. But at any rate, Aaron, Dodgy Rocks is out and about. This looks really, really fun. This is one of these real simple mechanics. but it's a lifetime of mastery.
It looks great.
Yeah. This thing is out right now, faux free on the Amiga. If you want the Windows version or the Linux version, you've got to pay. But the Amiga version is free, and that's the way it should be. If you're going to be charging people, you want to charge the people with bucks, not the Amiga people. They're all poor.
Oh, yeah. So, they're poor for buying Amiga stuff.
That's true. So this is available in both the ADF and LHA files. So you can check those out. But if you want the Windows version, it's only $2. Pony up, buddy. This looks really fun. I'm going to check it out. I may even include this on a future stream. This is available at itch.io, Nervig, Dodgy Rocks. All right, Aaron. Check this out. This thing... Remember the House 500, Aaron? Oh,
yeah, I do remember it.
So right now it's functioning as your sort of coffin for your Amiga.
Don't put it that way.
But right now, but back in the day, I used to use it for real stuff. Okay, and the big problem that I always had with pretty much all of the Amigas is the lack of an internal power supply. I just can't abide having an external power supply. I think it's because I grew up with the Atari 1200 XL, and then I moved on to consoles, and I just never had anything that was a big, bulky log, sitting around.
That's why you like the Coco.
Yeah, that's why I like the Coco so much.
I will say the Atari consoles had I've got a big beefy log over here for one.
It's not nearly the size of the. It's almost more like a wallwart size.
The number one big beefy one's the ColecoVision.
Oh yeah,
you could take that thing and just kill a guy with that thing.
Well, this guy, and by this guy I mean Mastatabs, has developed a single board solution that allows you to connect your Amiga 1200 to power without an external power supply.
Ooh.
This is a DC-DC converter module to fit in a Amiga 500 main board. It solders onto the main board, and you can use a 12-volt power jack to supply the Amiga 500. So everybody's got a billion 12-volt, wall warts in a drawer somewhere. You got one of those, you get this thing, you solder it down, and you go to town.
Check polarity.
You never check polarity.
Vote.
Listen, man. You might even want to give it a couple extra bits of juice, if you know what I mean.
No,
go for the 24 volt. It's like a built-in accelerator at that point. So now here's the problem, Aaron. It takes you through all the specifications, and then at the bottom there's one line that says this design has not been finally tested yet. So the jury's still out, and I don't know if you want to risk building this thing before he gets a chance to test it, but this is totally open source. You can buy the PCB, you buy all your components, you set them down on there, you do stuff with a soldering iron, and boom, it's done.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, man.
Right, because you just read that. Read that line again. It says, "What's it say about tested?"
This design has not been finally tested yet.
Okay, now let's say you're the guy that made this design. All right, it's open source. Anyone can use it. The last thing I'm going to write is, this is perfectly tested and it won't destroy your crap.
Right.
Because you never know.
That's right.
So you got to write something like that down there.
Yeah.
Trust me. Just go ahead and build it. What could go wrong?
Now, I do find that it's odd because the name of this thing is Amiga 1200 Single Power.
Yeah.
But then it says this is a converter module to fit on an Amiga 500 main board.
Huh.
I don't get that. That's confusing and makes me feel, even on the circuit board, it says A1200 Single Power. So I wonder if that was, surely it couldn't have been a typo. I don't know. But we'll keep an eye on this thing. I'm sure that somebody is going to build one of these things sooner or later. And if we could enter into the 22nd century with no more external power on our Amigas, I would be a very happy man.
Listen, the way I like to power my Amiga. Step 1, you get you a cardboard box. That's the way you do it. Step 2, order some crap from Poland, smash it together. It's a done deal.
Don't forget drilling holes in the shoebox.
That's the boat way. Thinking about it, it just occurred to me that you made the power supply that I've got hooked up to my precious Amiga, and you've blown up everything you've touched. So
its days are limited, Aaron. Its days are limited. It's been a big week for Amiga hardware. There's a new A600 memory expansion that's out that switches between fast RAM and your PCMCIA card. Okay, now you're on record
about this.
You're on record for talking about how PCMCIA was pretty much useless in the Amiga line for when it came out. You've badmouthed PCMCIA since day one on the Amiga.
No, what?
Aaron.
It's not worthless. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's not what you said before.
Oh, listen.
So
don't put words in my mouth, Boat.
This thing gets rid of that useless PCMCIA jack and gives you what you really want, some fast RAM. Now, what do you need fast RAM for?
Stuff.
Yeah.
Programs, man.
Yeah.
It's
programs.
Fast RAM was important. Listen, you know how it is. Some stuff wants a bunch of fast RAM.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's true.
You can never have enough. And so this allows you to switch between 8 meg to 4 meg. So you can actually downgrade your RAM if 8 meg is just too intense.
Well, there's a reason for that.
What is it?
My guess is, I think I read this, is that, see, the PCMCIA slot, it can interfere with certain bits of hardware in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need a little like override gimmick to make sure there's not going to be any issues. And so that's probably why that's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just a guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of text on here about how this is it opens the door to running WHD load games. But I always thought that a 600 with a 2 meg chip RAM, trapdoor expansion could run WHD. Maybe it just speeds up the WHD load process.
You need a pretty. I mean, WHD loads do require some extra RAM.
So 2 meg is not enough.
I mean, for some of the stuff you might run it, but not for like everything.
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense. You can check this thing out over at Retro Passion. No, that's in fact that's the name of the store. The actual name of the URL is amigapassion.co.uk.
Retro Passion.
There's all kinds of passion flying around this website here.
Oh man.
Here's what I think. I think this guy, he wants to sell Amiga junk, but he had this cool idea for a logo in his mind. He's like, man, I can make the side of the R an arcade machine. It's going to be awesome.
I like it, man.
And I'll call the site Retro Passion, but really I'm selling Amiga stuff, so I should probably call the site Amiga Passion.
He may make other stuff though.
Listen, if he does, we're not covering it.
Well, good for you, Retro Passion. Follow your heart. Don't listen to Boat.
Coming up next, Aaron, Green Fang. I love it when slang is spelled out on game titles. It's one of the best things ever.
You made it, don't you?
This is an unreleased game that was unfinished. It was in the prototype stage, and it's recently been uncovered. This comes to us from Neil, our buddy over at Indie Retro News.
Oh, yeah.
Green Fang was originally supposed to compete against the likes of Zool and Brian the Lion and all those kind of late release. I guess Zool is not a late release game, but all of those 2D platformers that came out on the Amiga. And I've got to say, Aaron, this one does not look bad. I mean, it is a hideous mess, but I mean, it's a platformer on the Amiga.
Well, it's not done.
Yeah, you've got all the ingredients. You've got wildly, derivative physics. You've got an insane sort of like vomit rainbow gradient on the background. You need to have that in an Amiga platformer.
I think it looks good.
And you've got tons and tons of collectibles. So I really have no idea why this thing didn't come out. I mean, it's got all the ingredients. You can play this thing if you go over to, let's see, where is this? Actually, you can download it directly to the from Indie Retro News site. I guess this thing was supposed to come out in '94, but they put the kibosh on it. It was actually supposed to even get a Jaguar port. But when the 3D wave started to crest, I guess the developers or the publishers wanted to pull out and focus their attention on more forward-looking genres. So Green Fang never saw the light of day until today, Aaron. I may give this a shot. Maybe it's not so bad.
Because your snarkery is you're undermining what these guys have done. They've taken this game that never got released. I think the background looks cool, by the way, and they're giving this thing life. This might be a fun game. It's not finished, so it looks for a not finished game looks pretty good. You should give this a fair shake before you put the bad mouth on it, Boat.
All right. Maybe you're right. That's going to do it for this week's news, Aaron. The gamble train is pulling away, and now it's time to talk about awesome.
Yeah, finally. I've been waiting a long time to talk about this game, Boat, as you know. How long have I been pitching this game? I mean, it was one of the first games I ever pitched for the show.
It was. You're like, we've got to play Awesome. And I was like, I'm never playing a game called Awesome.
Listen, if you're going to name your game Awesome, you know it's good. You'd have to be an idiot to name a crap game Awesome. You'd get killed in the press, all right? So that right there, I don't have to even finish this. Look at this thing. It's just awesome. That's all I had enough said. But I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay.
For the sake, because I don't have to be brief here. So, Awesome is the name of the game. Released in 1990. Listen, if you look at this thing, you know straight up that this is a Psygnosis joint.
You do.
Don't you, Boat?
From day one.
Developed by Reflections. These are the same outfits that got together and put out Ballistics, Brian the Lion, of course, and the Shadow of the Beast trilogy, Boat, Reflections. These guys had the jack, in my opinion, certainly from a graphical perspective. This came on 3 discs. Now, I'll tell you something. This game's sort of famous for it's got the old oversized box.
Yeah,
right?
This is it almost kind of looks like an old school board game box.
Yeah. It's sort of like this. It's a little bit, it's probably right about maybe a tiny bit bigger than like an Odyssey Master, like a Quest for the Rings box. It's about that size. I believe this game came with a shirt back. It's one of those games that came with a shirt. Now, I will say, I did see, when I was trying to price this, a normal size box version of this. So apparently, I don't know if they also released that.
They did, because that's what I pulled down for the box art that we see here on the video. I've got
there you go. Yeah,
box,
I didn't see that. So I guess we had at least 2 different boxes on this one, Boat. I kind of like to have the big box, but we'll get into. I'll tell you why I'm not later on the show. So this was put out by the usual suspects over at Reflections. You've got Cormac Bastone, who worked on Shadow of the Beast 2 and 3 as a coder. Martin Edmondson, who worked on Ballistics and all the Shadow of the Beasts as a coder. And the graphics were the exact same guys. The music on this was done by a guy who did the music on Shadow of the Beast 2 and 3. And his name is Timothy Wright. He also did Killing Game Show, which is another game we'll have to get to at some point. I always like that one. And of course, the logos, the lettering were Roger Dean. The cover art was a guy named John Harris.
The cover art's awesome.
Yeah, the box looks cool. Everything about this game exudes coolness. Like, that's what Psygnosis did.
Yeah.
They were super, super cool.
Yeah, regardless of the quality of the game, the cool factor on all Psygnosis games is off the charts.
And Psygnosis games, they've got to be some of the most collectible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
like, we talk about how speaking of the Odyssey 2, like, even if the game looks like double-baked garbage, like, the actual boxes were awesome looking. And so they're collectible as heck, the boxes. Same thing here. So this worked on the ECS, OCS. Now, Boat, here's some stuff I didn't know. I didn't realize this got ported. I was surprised to read this. There was an Atari ST port of this. And there was also a port to the FM Towns.
Ooh,
which,
interesting.
So that might be kind of fun. And the FM Towns, by the way, and the FM Towns Marty had really good sound and stuff too. So they were actually sort of in the same ballpark as the Amiga, not in a weird way. This is also part of one classic compilation, the Monster Pack 2. So let's talk about what is awesome. The game starts off with a classic Psygnosis intro video, Boat. Now, I don't think did you skip this, or did you actually say? I don't think
I watched. I never skip Psygnosis intros because oftentimes that's the best part of the game.
I would badmouth you, but I'm not going to. So, what did you think of this awesome intro?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It's only now apparent to me how often I call things awesome when reviewing this game.
Yeah.
But it was very well done. I thought the CGI was great. I love the physics. Like, there's a ship that comes out of the way that the ship does propulsion is just really, really crazy. Like, it's hiding behind an asteroid and it just sort of pops up and starts firing. I was a big fan of the intro cinematic on this for sure.
Yeah, it looks real good. And then when the actual game menu pops up, it kind of unfurls this beautifully rendered, sort of like a pinkish red glowed star field, and it puts the name up there in cool guy letters, and then it sort of shows the menu options, all cool guy, and the music kicks up. These guys had it down when it comes to presentation. I mean, say what you want about their game. Of course, the menu items were actually there wasn't much to it. You could turn sound effects and music going off, and you could also turn off the end sequence, which much like Shadow of the Beast, when you die in this, they've got a cool guy sequence. It's not that the music's not that good. It's more it's doot 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 doot. That's the music, but it's still a guy like looking up in space, going like, wonder what's going on. It's pretty cool. You turn that sucker off though once you watch it once. That's what I always do. So what is this game? Well, even I didn't know until I looked into it what exactly was going on to set this game up. Right. So and you're in command of the starship Elapide. Maybe you could pronounce this Elapide.
I got nothing.
So yeah. Hey, listen, why couldn't you call it the Starship, anything else? I don't know why you had to go there. So this game's actually got I've read the whole manual for this to figure out what was happening. It's actually kind of neat. So your ship, and this is sort of shown in the opening video, you're in a star system called the Octara star system, and you're there. Your ship goes around, just basically goes around the galaxy trading and stuff. And the people in the area have angered. Or there's some people that don't like the people in the Octarian system, and they're called the Homicons. Okay. And so your ship accidentally overhears this I guess like a communication from the Homicons, who are like, yeah, these guys won't trade with us, so we're going to blow up their whole galaxy with a special weapon called the Promethean Cannon. Right? Cool name, right?
Yeah, I like that.
So you're like, okay, because you were only here to trade, right? And in this system, fuel is at a premium, okay? And you can't buy fuel. All you can do is do jobs to get fuel. You got to do the job, boat. So the plot of this game, believe it or not, is to initially get to a place like a space station where you can get jobs, and then to eventually earn your way out of the star system before the galaxy gets blown away by the Homicons. All right, that's the plot. You probably didn't know that, did you?
No, I had no idea. So basically, you're just trying to get enough cash so you can get far away so you don't get destroyed.
Right, and as an added bonus, I kind of like this. You decide that because you heard this communication, and you weren't supposed to, so you could go warn all the Octarians that their galaxy is getting ready to get blown up, but you decide not to because it would drive up all the prices. It would drive it it'd make the gas too expensive to leave. So you just keep that little information to yourself. So with that, you're thrust into the game. Now, the opening sequence of the game where you're watching the video, there's a ship that rolls through and blows up another ship. That's actually the ship you're driving. So when this thing starts out, it starts in like a overhead view of the ship. And the best way I can describe this first level, it's sort of the same. Imagine if you were playing Time Pilot, but the ship in Time Pilot was 7 or 8 times as big. That's what you've got. Your ship's always in the middle of the screen, and the whole screen, everything else scrolls around.
Your ship is not exactly in the middle of the screen. I'd say it's like
it's a little lower.
Yeah, a little lower than the middle.
Yeah, but it's big. It's cool looking too. And so in the very first level, you're basically being attacked by these pirates, I believe. And your goal is to blow them all away without taking as little damage as possible. And they will drop these little discs that you can collect, and those come into play later in the game. The game looks nice. You're in space. You've got a radar screen at the bottom of the screen. You've got a pretty, what I would say, minimalistic, thing that shows you how many enemies are left, what your score is, your shields. It's not. This isn't one of those games where they take up half the screen with the name of the game or anything.
Right.
The scrolling on this is nice. This first level and the second level sort of remind me in a weird way if you've ever played the game Cosmic ARG. Right, the first level, the meteors come from the left and the right, and you're sort of in the middle, trying to use the joystick to go back and forth. It doesn't play the same, but the look is sort of the same as that. So once you defeat these bad guys, you come to a control panel, and at this point you can change the amount of energy you put in your shields versus in your guns. And so this, if your shields are running low, you can transfer a lot more of your power from the guns to the shields. And it does just what you think. And after that level is a second level that's very similar, except in this level you're fighting asteroids. So give me your initial impressions on this boat right out of the gate, these first two levels.
Your ship looks great.
Yeah.
It's very well rendered. The HUD is not overly large. It's exactly the right size that it needs to be. The radar I found to be very useful. Where this falls apart, where the experience falls apart, is that you spend the majority of your time flying your awesome spaceship backwards. Okay? You're in a constant retreat from the stuff that's around you. And that is not a good mechanic. When you are playing a, swashbuckling space pirate trader, you want to be running through space at full speed, or you want it to be like an asteroids thing where you are moving throughout, space and stuff is around you. But you spend 90% of your time on these levels reversing as fast as you can and blindly firing all around you. And it's not a good experience from any sort of gameplay perspective. That said, I was able to beat it, and that covers many sins.
It's a Psygnosis game. You got past the first level.
Right. On the second level with the asteroids, it's more the same. It made me question like why it's even there. I guess you have like attacking waves and you have asteroid waves, but the thing is that the ships that are attacking you don't really the threat that they pose isn't so much greater than the asteroids. I mean, the main thing that can hurt you in this game is just hurtling yourself into other objects. And so that it's a graphical showcase. Everything is drawn very well. But your ship is just too big. You can't have a ship that detailed and have your field of view. It's like you got to choose one or the other. It's like you could either have a big detailed ship and make the gameplay different, or decrease the size of your ship and allow you to move through space forward instead of just constantly reversing and moving out of the way of things that are traveling in your path.
You're not wrong in some of that. I really like the first couple levels of this game, and I like it mostly because of the radar.
That's the thing. You don't even have to look at your ship. All you have to do is look at the radar, and in fact, that's a better way to play. It's a more efficient way to play. The radar is good, but the radar should be an aid. It shouldn't be the only thing that you have to rely on, and you rely on it 100% because your field of view is so small.
Well, I don't rely on it 100% because I can see both at the same time. It's in a good spot. The radar is actually pretty large. It's almost as large as the ship.
The radar is great. It's one of the best radars I've ever seen in a video game.
I really like these levels. Could the ship be smaller? It could. It could be about a third smaller, but I see what they were going for here. Because what they're going for here is they wanted you to use the radar in conjunction with what you're seeing. Whereas most games, they took a tried and true principle for video games and put it in this. And this, I think what they tried to do with the radar here was to give it a different slant. All right. We've seen the asteroid style gameplay in a million games. I mean, they're not reinventing the wheel here. But I think what they tried to do is to put the radar in, make it oversized and a graphical tour de force to make it stand out and be a little bit of a different spin. I don't know if they succeeded.
I mean, they totally did that on purpose, because when you look at a picture on the back of the box and you see your ship, you're like, man, that's a great looking ship. I want to pilot that thing. And if they made it small, like an asteroid style ship, you would be like, oh, this is just like, I don't know if Stardust was out or not, but you'd be like, this is just another asteroids clone. So I know exactly why they did it. It just doesn't work.
I think it works okay. It's okay. I'm not gonna sit here again. They didn't reinvent the wheel. I will say, aside from the beautiful graphics and the gameplay is smooth, the scrolling's smooth, everything looks cool. The enemy ships are cool looking. You've also got some good music going. And I know that's a pet peeve of yours. You've got music playing while you're fighting and the music's awesome sounding, no pun intended. And the asteroids, when you get to the asteroids, the music changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's more foreboding. The asteroids, I think the asteroids level is actually better than the fighting level because it's the asteroids don't rush at you, so you've got a lot more reaction time there to get in position to shoot them. And I think as an asteroid, sort of a real high-powered, beautiful graphical asteroids clone, it's quite nice. I like that. So once you get past the second level, this is what really got me back in the day. Because the first two levels, I like them. They're cool looking, but they're not anything you haven't seen before. So then you get to the third level, and the ship's sort of, first you go into warp, you come out of the asteroid field. The warp screen's real cool. The stars all streak by in a real cool way. And then you get to a level where the front of the ship kind of jettisons off from the back. It splits. And so the ship is now a much smaller ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in the move that literally made my jaw drop back in the day, the ship turns. And so instead of seeing it above the ship, you're now behind the ship. It's an awesome effect. And the music kicks in perfectly when it happens. It's like, bam, and then the drums kick in. And then all of a sudden you're zooming, in space with a third-person view of the ship. An awesome effect. Boat, and the music kicks in, and then you're all of a sudden, as you're warping through space, this giant worm creature comes spinning out of the void, and you're trying to shoot this thing. It's like a segmented worm. This is that kind of graphical effect that you see a lot on the Genesis. I remember seeing this quite a bit, but I mean, it was an arcade effect before that. And I've heard people compare this to a few other games, but it's a pretty good effect. It's a big segmented worm that comes at you like a space dragon or something. And your goal is to move your little ship in front of this thing, shoot it as fast as you can, and kind of get out of the way as it zooms by. And then once it zooms by you, it comes back. And so you can get behind it and shoot it as it goes off into the void until you eventually blow this thing apart. And it kind of shoots off in a bunch of different directions. Really cool. And then eventually your little ship kind of goes to the big planet, sort of like it did in Blood Money. What'd you think of this next part, Bo?
I agree with you 100% that it might be the coolest part of this whole game.
Yeah.
Is the part where you have the saucer separation and then you have the dimensional view shift.
Yeah.
That is a super, super, super cool thing.
Were you expecting that when it happened?
No, not at all. Because I went into this blind.
Dropper. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I kept being shocked by this game because I was shocked that I could get past the first level, and I was shocked that I could get past the second level. Then when we had the point of view change, that surprised me. And then, now, I mean, this is a blatant Space Harrier ripoff. That's what it is.
Harrier, yes.
Yeah. It's not particularly well done. There's only one enemy. It's a dragon. You shoot it as it goes by. You shoot it as it goes away. But the thing is that it's a totally different type of game. It's a totally different kind of experience. That's worth a lot of points for me because, one of the things that I value the most in any game is a certain amount of variety. And this game has that in spades, even just, not counting what comes after this.
Yeah.
So, and I could get past it. Another plus in my book. I really wish that this particular segment could have been longer and they would have introduced other enemies to fly at you. I think they could have done a lot with scaling different types of enemies or making different types of targets. Like if there were like rings you could fly through or stuff like that. Like it would be awesome because you got to remember that in the course of the game, you're trying to land on this planet. And you're working your way towards it. You start out in deep space and you get closer and closer. It would have been great if it's like, we need to align you into the landing vector for this planet. So in addition to dealing with the space dragon, we also need you to fly through a certain number of these rings to put you in the correct alignment to land or to fly into the atmosphere.
I will say, I like what they did here. I never played Space Harrier that much, but I definitely recognized what they were going for here. I think you did nail something there, which was they had, and this sort of is a story that runs throughout this game, and as much as I like it, it's certainly not perfect. And I think there were some missed opportunities here. Of course, they were working with limitations of space and whatnot. Certainly not technical limitations, but I think some additional use of that angle would have been neat. and because it took them all that time to get that going, they could have done a little bit more. But all that said, that level does change as you go through the game. So you're not always fighting the one dragon. Sometimes you're fighting a bunch of different dragons. To be honest with you, I've never gotten super far, like more than to the second level. So I don't know what lies on down the line, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But it does change somewhat. So once you get through that aspect of the game, you are now landing on the planet, all right? Because remember, the whole
well,
point
no,
of this
not
is
yet. You're not landing on the planet. You're flying around in the upper atmosphere.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, but you're going to land on the planet.
Right.
So you're in the ship, and you're over top. You're flying like over top of some platforms, basically, and you're being attacked while you're doing it. So this level is interesting, and I learned something this week that I never knew, which I'll get into here right now. So you're flying along. You've got an energy bar on the side of the screen. It shows how many hits your shields could take before they go out. And there's an arrow that spins in the corner, and it points to the place you're supposed to go, right? And you knew all this, right, Bo?
Well, I mean, this is something that was pretty apparent. When there's an arrow on the screen, you follow the arrow.
Right. But I mean, the reason I ask is it's a kind of you had radar in space. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of the goofiest. It goes from really good radar to really stupid radar.
Yeah, I agree. It is.
You would never pilot a ship like this because following this arrow around makes it kind of clumsy to get there.
Yeah.
So once you land, and you have to, this is where I had to use the Amiga no longer, is because my spacebar doesn't work. But once you get to the area that the arrow has pointed you to, it's like a little landing area. You have to hit the spacebar, and that's where your man will appear as you go into a different type of level. But this level here is I think this was another missed opportunity, to be honest with you. The fight to get to the planet, it could have been a lot cooler than it was. It just sort of, this is probably my least favorite part of the game, is the landing part of it. Just because I don't know, it's just not that interesting to me. What did you think of this part?
Yeah, it's more the same. It's the first level again with less like impending doom. And all you're doing is flying to the landing spot. I agree with you that this was a missed opportunity. They should have reworked the mechanic to make it different somehow. And I don't have an answer on how, but I mean, you are flying. It is different than the first level in that, your ship can fly and, you're pointed in different directions. It's actually a little bit more fleshed out, really, the flying mechanic.
It doesn't feel like the first couple levels. It's supposed to like more standard flying game type stuff. Yeah. But by that I mean it's just.
But all you have to do, and of course, I'll tell you, there's a very exact point where I was unable to progress in this game. But I felt like I was just, when you get to this level, you just fly, you follow the arrows, and you hit the space bar and you land.
Right, that's correct. And so this is where I have made a mistake for decades. All right, I'm going to tell you right now. And I'm going to credit the guys that run over at Lemon, the fellow that does the videos. He showed me something I've never known. So when you land your ship, you're now on foot, okay? And what you need to do is run through these platforms to get and run through them as quick as you can because you're on a timer. And you get to the end boss, blow him up, and that's how you access the part of the game where you get to do the trading, okay? So this part here is real hard, okay? This is the hardest part of the game by far. I mean, not even close. And what you have to do is basically memorize the enemy patterns on this. And trust me, you'll memorize them because you'll do it about 30 times when you get here. And because every time you get hit, you lose some time, and eventually.
Well, and then of course you lose time no matter what too.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a clock going down, and you lose time if you get hit, and you don't have a whole lot of time anyway. Right. And so when you lose time, you die. Okay. Now I remember playing this over and over and over and over and over and over, and it was a very rare event where I could get to that end boss, and it was even rarer that I could kill him. The end boss is sort of like he's a dragon guy that's over a platform. You have to shoot him out. Just shoot him until he dies. And because I would land on the planet and have 30 seconds of time. And this isn't just like you're walking down the street. I mean, you're going on tour here, aren't you, Bo?
You've got a lot of ground to cover.
And this is where they sort of, this part of the game, they sort of go into this reminds me of the game, we go into that blood money / Shadow of the Beast area, where they just have these kind of enemies that just kind of pop up out of nowhere and they spin around in patterns, which I never have liked that. It's not as bad as say that, but I mean, you know what I mean.
It's your typical, agony Shadow of the Beast.
What would have been a lot cooler is if they had like guys coming out on the platform to fight you.
Well, then it would have turned into Alien Breed and also been awful.
Well, no. I mean, anything's better than what I didn't like this.
I thought this was better. I like this approach better than endless waves of enemies like Alien Breed.
I'm not. I mean, cooler. Alien Breed is a good game. I don't know why you're killing Alien Breed.
It's not.
But anyway, here's what I learned from the Lemon Crew, and I would never have known this. And he even mentions it. You'll never know this. I always landed as quickly as I could on the planet. Okay. What you actually need to do is to get more time. You need to stay out. You need to not land for a long time, right? And so, believe it or not, if
really,
I tested this and it worked. If you mess around for a long time until you land, until you're almost dead, you'll have like double the amount of time it takes you you had initially. Yeah.
Huh.
And then it's let me tell you something. Double the amount of time. It's still tight, but it's nowhere near as tight as having not double the amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, trust me when I tell you, completing this, and I've done it in the half time, but it is super, super tough to do. But you can get there, but it's tough. Once you actually beat the end boss for that stage, you go down this flight of stairs into basically a static screen where you actually get to a terminal, and then you can do stuff. There's a lot of depth right here that probably half the people that play this never saw. This is where you set up your trades. This is where you add weapons to your ship, and this is where you get jobs to do. And this is how you get gas, and this is how you progress through the game. I would wager, I'd bet 2/3 of the people that played this game never even get to this point. It's because of the difficulty of that upper level.
I think that's a total lie. I think you're way overselling the difficulty. I made it to the end and I suck.
You got to the terminal?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you credit.
It wasn't that hard.
I always thought it was super hard. I really did. So once you get to the terminal, you can also, like I said, the discs you picked up on the very first level are like currency, and you can use that to buy, to add weaponry to your ship. Now, I've got a little list here. This stuff won't mean much. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. You got bombs, spherical bombs, a peripheral gun, lasers, mortar bolts, mining lasers, flamethrowers, just a bunch of different stuff you can add to your ship to make it more powerful that you're going to need. You can also, like I said, pick up jobs, and the jobs will pay you a certain amount of gasoline or whatever a ship runs on, fuel. Probably not gasoline, but now think about it.
Leaded gasoline.
So this game when you get to this point, you'll also then you can pick where you want to go next, and there's a little nav area here where you kind of pick your next destination. You've got 8 worlds. The first world we just talked about was Aquas, the sea world. You've also got the barren world, a forest world, lava world, desert world, organic world, ice world, and dead world. Now, these all have cool guy names, so I'm not going to try to pronounce. But they run the gambit of all the different worlds you would see. I've never gotten past the second level in this, so I hadn't seen a ton of this stuff. But as you go through the game, there's a lot of change-ups and gameplay elements change. The things you fight change, the jobs are different. There's a lot of depth here that I never got to experience. So I got real excited just reading about this stuff and watching people get to this other stuff. But I'm not going to report on something I didn't play. I got to the second level. I got killed. But overall, the game's actually deeper than I thought it was, to be honest with you. What did you think about the elements involved in getting jobs, upgrading weapons, that sort of stuff? But did that do anything for you?
Well, I've been waiting to talk about this because this is where I got to in the game.
Okay.
So I could not figure out how to go back to my ship and go to another planet. And I tried like the Dickens to figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
I sold my stuff. I bought stuff. I found the tip on what to do next. Then I went to that planetary thing and I watched the planets spin around. Yeah. And then I stayed at the hotel and they spun around really fast. And then I clicked on buttons and I found out, you wouldn't believe how many times I read the same 2 paragraphs about each planet. Okay.
Yeah.
I could not figure out the right combination of button presses and buttons on the nav and clicking on planets to actually leave the port. I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what to do. I downloaded the manual. I read the manual. I still couldn't figure it out.
Let me tell you something. I remember getting to this point back in the day, and I couldn't figure it out either. It don't make it easy. And I will say the area with the planets, for one thing, you could only go to planets that you could actually physically fly to with the fuel you've got on board, right? And so which is incredibly limiting. You also have to have a job.
It's possible that maybe I missed the thing where I picked up a job and that wouldn't let me leave because of it.
So and that would sort of determine where you go next, effectively. But you've got, I mean, you can't. There's very limited choices of where you can go.
But I was so let down because I was riding this high, you know, that I was able to get here and all this stuff. And I thought that actually one of my favorite aspects of this game is the ambient sound of the spaceport. Yeah, this is like one of the earliest examples that I can think of a game really taking the time to produce something that sounds like ambient sound. So you hear like alien chatter, you hear like footsteps rustling, you hear the sound of like engines whirring and things like that. It's a very impressive feat of sound design. And like I said, most games when you get to the space dock, they'd probably play a little tune or something like that, or just have silence. So hats off to the developers for taking the time to make that part of the game, really immersive.
Yeah, the sound on this was, right across the board was top shelf, as you would expect. Something else that might help you, I didn't know about this either until I read it on. Again, it's another thing I got from Lemon. There's a cheat in this when you get to the first time you access the control panel. If you put I can't remember the exact sheet, but if you put your cursor or something and hit like can't remember if it was, I think it was one of the function keys. Anyway, it gives you unlimited health, and it gives you basically like the ability to skip stuff. A lot of stuff like that. So you can actually sort of cruise through the game using that a little bit, which is nice.
I kind of wish I would have done that, because as we're looking at the playthrough on this video, there's some really amazing stuff going on in these later levels.
And trust me, I've been playing this game for years and years. And there's plenty of stuff I've never seen until I watched playthroughs of it. There's a lot of stuff going on. That's what it makes. Boy, how many times have we said that about a Psygnosis game? But I think this one's a game that you could actually play and enjoy, and actually have you've got a chance. Yeah, I guess is what I'm saying. You're not totally screwed. Yeah, I think you could actually play this game and enjoy it. I noticed when I was looking on Lemon for review scores and stuff. I mean, a lot of people were kind of killing this game. I wonder how many of them actually played it for any length of time.
Well, that's every Lemon review score.
Well,
you don't know if you played it or not.
I read a lot of Lemon scores. I mean, I'm not as down on the Lemon readers as you are in terms of scoring. I think a lot of them are pretty fair.
That's because you agree with most of them. This is one you don't agree with.
No. I mean, I'm not saying they're even wrong on this one, but I just wonder, from reading their reviews, how far they actually got into the game, because I think this game's got a lot to offer. And as far as a Psygnosis, I mean, if you look at this compared to something like a Shadow of the Beast or something which got all the press, I don't think this is quite as graphically impressive as Shadow of the Beast, and the music's not quite as good, but it's infinitely more playable than Shadow of the Beast, at least 1 and 2. And I think this sort of, I don't know if it went under the radar, because it didn't review all that well either, I was kind of surprised by that too. When I read the reviews, I was like, man, I kind of can't believe these aren't that great.
This is my favorite Psygnosis game I've ever played.
You like this more than Brian the Lion?
Yes, because it's a well put together game. I mean, is every aspect of the game A+? No, but is every aspect of the game at least average? Absolutely. And there's just enough of uniqueness in each part of the game to make you think, boy, they were really trying to do something different, and they succeeded. There's not too many games that contain this amount of variety of gameplay, period, let alone manage to hold it together and make each part control well. Like, the first 2 levels, like, I may not agree with the fact that, like, that you shouldn't spend most of your time reversing. But it controls well. The scrolling is smooth. The enemies look good. Your ship looks good. When you are on the planet's surface flying around, it looks very visually appealing.
Yeah, the planets are all different.
Yeah, the planets are all different.
The platforms are all different.
And then when you're walking around on foot, again, there are some sort of cheap enemies, but they're not super cheap, and there's not wave after wave after wave of them like there are on so many other games.
Plus, you can sort of memorize them,
right?
And it's not even I could sort of do it, and my memory's goo.
Right. So to me, this is, somebody just mentioned Lemmings in the chat. Of course, I don't think that Lemmings is a better game than this, but I'm talking about Psygnosis games with Roger Dean cover art.
Reflections games.
Yeah, Reflections games. So like Blood Money, this, Shadow of the Beast, stuff like that. This is the most fun that I've had with any of those games, and I think it is. it's just the best game all around. I was pleased to play this game, and as much as it pains me to say it, awesome is sort of awesome.
I am as stunned as I've ever been. I was sure you were going to give this thing the big boot and then the boat leg drop. I don't know. I just assumed you would kill it. I'm so happy that you like this game. And the thing is, the trading element, there's some, I'm not going to say it's strategy, but there's some light elements of at least like a light role-playing element or something in there with a little bit of trading.
It adds a little bit of immersion, for sure.
And they could have not added any of that at all. You know what I'm saying? Because really, they added it, but you could not have that. Just have you get through all the levels, and no one would have known the difference. They didn't have to add the weapons, the different variances on all the levels. They could have just had this thing rinse and repeat and called it a day. But they really went in there and added a lot of extra gameplay, a lot of extra elements to the game that they didn't have to, which I appreciate it. I appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
So I give this one the high sign. I'm a big fan. I should mention that the music on this also appears in a level of Lemmings that also mentions the word awesome in it. So,
okay.
So that's a little Easter egg there. As I mentioned, reviews on this weren't the best. Lemon gives us a 6.86.
That's very low. 68%. F-matic.
Yeah, I think that's crap. Frankly,
I agree.
Fond of that. ACAR gave this a 90%. Ace gave it a 900. Amiga Action gives this an 80% vote. Amiga Joker, and we know how they are, 62%. They dropped the hammer on this thing.
They hate everything.
AUI, 78%. And the German mag, Dator Magazine, gave it 7 out of 10, Boatster. Another brutal beating. So what did you get from the Discord? I'm sure the Discord people, they've never let me down. I'm sure some of them really love this game.
Well, we did get a wide variety of reviews this week. We'll start out with Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky. He says, a firm fighting 7 out of 10. A very nice playable game with smooth animation and sound effects. A wide range of fantastic levels to keep you interested and wanting more. When I first started playing, I thought, wow, this is Asteroids Remastered. Later, the game turns to Space Harrier, although a poor attempt. Overall, a nice shoot-'em-up game that will make a great Amigos High Score Challenge event. Pixels of Dawn writes, initially, I thought this was just an okay shooter with a ship-centered viewpoint from something like Seek and Destroy. But it's much more than that. You go through multiple different areas and gameplay types, and you really feel like you're going on a journey. The behind the ship and on foot sequences really add some depth to the experience, and the trading elements also move it beyond a simple shmup. Graphics and music are great, and I love the warp sequences. That said, most sections suffer from being too zoomed in, making it hard to react. The weapons feel a bit weak, and there's definitely some problematic slowdown. A fun game that warrants another look, but definitely a lack of polish. 6.5 out of 10.
You could upgrade those weapons, man.
Graham W. Vebke writes, for the first 2 levels, I thought I saw what this game was going to be like, using that proven space shooter formula based on Asteroids and Minesweeper, but attempt to make it awesome with better graphics and music. The gameplay is okay, but adding in Star Trader and Elite elements makes this a rather confused game. The animations are fine, but the scrolling at times was vertigo-inducing. At the third level, it tries its hand at being like Space Harrier before the landing sequence, and that's really when I put this game down. It reminded me of a new worker trying to impress their workmates with all their skills on day one. I almost expect to see a stage of Shadow of the Beast for level 4. Please let me know if this does happen. The music is average, but overall I really didn't enjoy listening to it. The sprites are well drawn and colorful, but that doesn't save it, and I won't play this again. 5 out of 10.
Oh, man. Burial.
Jason Warnes writes, dizzying. 6 out of 10. Laurent writes, I was one of those poor souls who had succumbed to what Bodovkar would probably call the hypnotic irrational attraction of Psygnosis artwork. After finishing Shadow of the Beast, and let's just pause and say, he finished Shadow of the Beast.
When you said that, I was taken aback.
I bought Shadow of the Beast 2, and finally bought Awesome following a very positive review in Tilt magazine. The game presents very well, and its graphical polish is very impressive. It plays as a succession of sequences of very different gameplay. Although all these sequences can be enjoyable on their own to an extent, except for maybe the second overhead space station sequence, which is painfully hard, they offer very little variety in terms of enemies and surprises and end up being quite tedious. The game seems to hint that Reflections had what it takes to make a more complex game than Shadow of the Beast 1 and 2, but in the end it succumbs to the same issues, lack of variety and high difficulty. With better level design and more variety, Awesome could have been awesome, but in the end it's just barely average. The music is great though. 5 out of 10.
Lack of variety? Come on, man.
You heard it here first from our...
Come on, man.
Chris Folds writes, it's alright. Nothing special and certainly not awesome. 5 out of 10. Frodo and L, our final review. Due to circumstances, I was only able to play this game for about 50 minutes and combine this with watching a playthrough. From this, I am left to wonder whether this title was based on what the developers were shouting when they came up with another concept to throw into the game. Let's create a 2D space shooter. Awesome! Why don't we add a 3D section too? Awesome! Elite's kind of cool. We could do something like that. Awesome. This might have worked if they had also spent some time on polishing the various sections. As it is, though, I think a more honest title would have been meh. 4 out of 10. They killed your game, Aaron. They killed it.
I'm speechless. I really am. I knew when this... I'm not surprised, though, because when this took so long to get approved by the committee, I was like, man, they must really not like this game. I don't understand the hate for this. I really don't. It's a beautiful game. It looks great. The sound's great. It's varied. It's got a bunch of different gameplay elements like we talked about. I like it. I've always thought it was neat. I've always been pleased with it. And I'll never forget the first time I saw it, and when the ship changed angle, it blew my mind. I think in the landscape of Amiga games that this is a pretty top shelf game. I'm surprised everybody hates it so much. It's just like Three Stooges. They killed that too, and they knew I loved it. So that's the way it goes.
You just never know. You just never know.
I did look this up on eBay, Bode. This is not, as you could guess, it ain't gonna come cheap. Those like those, especially with the wacky box. So I saw the big box. Now this listing said complete in box, but I didn't check to see if the shirt was in there. There's one for sale in the USA right now. Boats are $145. Takes that to the house. You can get the discs for $15 if you just want the discs. So get this. I'll look to see what these have been selling for, to see if they were going for $145. The big box has sold for, someone got one for $46. I don't know if it was complete. I saw one sell for $101, and I saw one sell for $123. So these things aren't going cheap. I did see the normal size, narrower box go for $60. So even the smaller box is not cheap.
Well, this appeals to multiple groups of people. You got your Amiga fans, you got your Psygnosis fans, and you've got your fans of that awesome like 70s sci-fi novel cover art. Yeah, because this is a great example of that. I
even looked for Atari ST or FM Towns versions of this, because every once in a while you can get an Atari ST version of an Amiga game. It's the exact same box, just different discs, a different sticker. You can get it real cheap, but not this time. I didn't see neither one of these games were selling. And I will say, FM Towns games and Towns Marty games, I don't care. It could be tic-tac-toe. They're selling for $18 billion.
You know, another thing about this game is that you definitely get your money's worth in terms of length. Like, we're watching a playthrough right now. This person is playing the game pretty much perfect, and it takes you over an hour and 20 minutes to get through all the levels.
Yeah, there's 8 worlds. So
yeah,
and there's even that manual hints at hidden places you can go to get hidden stuff that are off the beaten path. Mm-hmm. So Lord only knows what kind of secrets are stuck in here.
Yeah. So anyway, always interesting to hear, of course, what you think, Aaron, but also what our listeners think. So big thank you to all of our Discord members that week after week post reviews. We really enjoy hearing those, and we encourage any of you out there that are listening that are part of our Discord community to please post a review, because I always enjoy listening to the different viewpoints on these games for sure.
Right on.
Aaron, as we move on towards the end of the show, I want to talk a little bit about the high score challenges that have just finished up here on our Discord channel. We run high score challenges on both the ZX Spectrum and the Amiga. Right now, on the Amiga side, we have a competition going on with Pipe Mania, and the competition has been fast and fierce. It actually just it passed me by immediately. I thought I was pretty good at this game. It turns out that I'm actually really horrible. In fact, I have the last place score by far. Right now, currently, oops, I just made you disappear there. Currently, I am in very last place, and we've got Frodo NL first place, 351,000 and score on Pipe Mania. Z9K9 in second, and Barkbit in third. But we've got almost 10, we got 9 competitors so far. If you are a Discord member and you want to jump in on the Pipe Mania score challenge, you've got one more week before the announcer or the winner is announced. So jump on in there and make it happen.
There's some real hot shots on our Discord too. These guys don't. I mean, these are some top level players.
Yeah.
And then there's us.
That's right. And we also have our ZX Spectrum, our Specky high score competition, which just wrapped up last week. Our last one was Street Hawk. And so Street Hawk, Z9K9 drove his motorcycle to freedom with a score of 249,000. He was the winner. I'll go ahead and pop up, since this has just ended. We'll take a look real quick at all of the scores. Steve Rasmussen got second place with a score of 114,000. And Pixels at Dawn coming in with the bronze, 96,000. Congratulations to all who competed. Street Hawk was a real fun game. This was one that I never watched the TV show, but I thought that the Spectrum version was pretty fun.
No one watched the TV show. I'm looking forward to getting my Unamiga upgrade, so because I don't like emulating this stuff. I want to actually play it on the Unamiga, so I'm looking forward to actually getting it on there. That'll be good. That'll be cool. I'm going to get it on some of this stuff.
Cool. And the current, like I said, that this high score challenge just ended. Death Chase is the next game on the list for next month. So feel free to jump on in and record a score for Death Chase.
Speaking of Jaw Dropper, that's another one. That's one of the first things we put on the Specky. And I was just like, man, look at this. That was awesome. Awesome game.
Yeah. Speaking of awesome people, Aaron, I want to thank our buddy who has left us. This is... Codes for Food is his name, and he has left us a review on Apple Podcasts, and I will read it thusly. He says, as a former Amiga owner, I've missed my beloved computer for many years. I was so happy to stumble upon this team's Amiga-centric podcast. I've been listening to it since episode 1. It might be a little rough around the edges, but the amount of information they throw out each, and for some reason the rest of it didn't get copied. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that he likes our show. So thank you, Codes for Food. Sorry for not getting the full review on there, but we do appreciate anybody that has a chance to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. They are the driver of podcast traffic for right now. But wherever you listen to us, if you listen to us through Spotify or any other platform that you can leave us a review, we really would appreciate it. It really helps us appear earlier in the search results, as it were. So thank you so much, Codes for Food. Now, Aaron, we got some Twitch subscribers that we need to be thanking, because they help keep the show going. And we got some new ones. A bunch of new people jumped on this week. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention them. We want to kick things off with Still Adolescing, Macintosh Librarian, Mitsuyama, Jost80, Lamatsta, Pixels at Dawn Gaming, Roshi MSX, Frodo NL, Retro Jerry, Great Owl G, Memories of a Spectrum Gamer, Christian Russell, Byte Links, Jigglebox, Go Sub, David Z Naz, Real Joe the Zombie, Old B Sturgeon, Chris Folds, Buck Owens, Wing Chun Wolf, Pints and Amiga, and Uber Scuba Diver. We just a reminder that if you subscribe to us through Twitch, send me a message however you wish, John at amigospodcast.com. I can get you in on the Discord, because everybody that subscribes to us on Twitch gets that same benefit.
Need your hookup.
Yeah, and we want to get you in on the community. Another thing we should mention, Aaron, is that we have a new podcast on the Amigos Retro Gaming Network. Pixel Guide In has joined the fray. Cody and Eric. I don't know why I call them Mark.
Good old Mark Eric.
Good old Mark Eric. Cody and Eric.
Sanctions in there.
In Sanction, they do a twice monthly show that's sort of a round table. They've got discussion topics. They talk about games they're playing. They do a beer review. It's a good time. It's a totally, one of the things that I like about our network is that each show is just a little bit different. And we're very, very proud to have them join us. And you can check out Pixel Guide In on our Amigos Retro Gaming Network feed. It should already have popped up on your feed. If you're looking for something new to listen to, you can't go wrong with Pixel Guide In.
Yeah, let me speak on this just for a moment. I've been listening to these guys since the very first episode, and I've always been a big fan. And one of the things you get from these guys, now these dudes are out in California.
Yeah, West Coast attitude.
Over in the UK. Mm-hmm. So they've got it's a east-west combination there. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they've got all kinds of great segments, but they look at stuff that's not they sort of are. They're younger than us, and they sort of cover stuff that sort of we don't ever talk about, like not just retro games, but retro-inspired stuff that appears on the Switch, or PD, or sort of like new release games on the C64 and the Spectrum. They also cover the Coco, the Spectrum, the MSX. They are always picking up new systems, and so there's a wide variety of topics on there, which is a lot of fun. They try out a couple beers every show. If you're in the whole beer scene, they cover some real obscure, weird beers, boat, and they do a lot of different sorts of segments. They always talk about the new stuff they've bought. They seem to endlessly get new stuff, but it's kind of neat to hear what they do. They do a little bit of repair stuff. They talk about mods and upgrades. So they don't really cover a lot of different bases on that show. They're super, super entertaining. And I'm tickled pink that they're on our network now. It just makes me so happy. Along with Flack, I just love it because it's a gathering of just my favorite shows. So it worked out great. I just love it. So welcome aboard, fellas. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. Let's see. We do want to thank you, Aaron, for suggesting this game, the Amigos Game Selection Committee. Well done. And our Patreon Song Challenge last week. We had multiple winners again. Continuing on with the Top Gun theme. We're rounding out the Top Gun theme with last week. We did Take My Breath Away, Danger Zone, and that You've Lost That Loving Feeling. So I thought I'd do a little theme month. They call it Sept Top Gun. And so I just thought I'd fit into that.
No one calls it that.
Everyone calls it that. So, Pixels at Dawn. Jason Warrens, Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky, Mitsuyama, Jigglebox, Pack Billy, CBM Nut, and Bernard Lucas. Congratulations, you are all winners of the Patreon Song Challenge. Excellent work, fellas. Good job. And ladies, or ladies. This week, got a new Patreon song coming up. If you know it, send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and I will announce you as a winner. Heavy Systems Inc. Bundy, Frag Lord Mark Barland, Olav Hope Hermsky, Jonah a.k.a. Simulant, Jeremy Jones, Ethan Little, Alien Breeder, Dave Velociraptor, Cowbird Boy, Lane Denson, Luke Hudson, John Cook, Bomb the Bass, Roshi, Frodo, in El Sol, Sizer, Tech Mage, Jurgen, Mr. Cola, Daniel Williams, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zorg Lub, Commodore Kid, Reflection, Simon Ledge, Captain Crispy, Kilobytes and Caffeine, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, K-Tha, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator, 10-Minute Amiga, Retrocast, Bernard Quinn, Retro Man Cave, Tim, Drew, Simon, Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Leder, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig Shanzo, Bachbid, Roland Book, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, Leif Kalan, Alan Kebab, Checote, Level Low, John Marshall, Matthew Pell, on Ricky DeRocha, Creepy D, Dead Boy, Figgy C, TZ, The Slow, Norris, Stefan Sword, God Mortensen, Ed Van Helen, Blendo 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Falls, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Vebke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, Paul Harrington, Duncan Stiles, Taves from the Crib, Josh and Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy, Humbert Stad, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warnes, Pixels at Dawn, and Kjolbjorn Barman.
Repulsive.
I bet you knew that one right away, right, Aaron?
I thought you stubbed your toe for the first couple verses.
Next week, Aaron, we're going back to the well, the Spectrum Well. We've played this on our Sinclair before.
All right.
Hasifa suggested this to the game selection committee. We're going to be playing Lords of Chaos.
Oh, yes. Well, good. At least we've dipped our toe in the pool on this because this is a pretty complicated one, as I recall.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, before we go, just a reminder that we do record the show live every Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. We'd love to have you join us on twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. It's always a party in the chat. You can join such fine folks as Pixels at Dawn Gaming, doing an awesome job moderating. We got Amiga Live, Archfan5, Atten Barkbit, Bitstorm, Buck Owens, Cobrain, Cobrian, Commander Root, Comula,
You're becoming Brent.
Dave Velociraptor, Deep Feels, Ed Van Helland, Figgy78, Frodo NL, Hermsky, Eltron 5, Jason Warrens, L. Curtis B, Mitsuyama, Olav Hope, Picard 2010, Ramastino, Rob O'Hara, Still Adolescing, Taishinti, Treyguard 82, Vigoro Pros, Wing Chun Wolf, and Z9K9. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us live at Amigos in the chat. We really
All-star
appreciate it.
turnout. All-star turnout. Big turnout today. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. Sorry, Amiga Live. If you want your name sung, you got to pay up, buddy. That's why people pay the big bucks.
Oh, God. How much does it cost for you not to sing the names? Maybe I'll double it.
It's triple. It's triple.
No.
All right, guys, we will see you later on down the line. Next week, Lords of Chaos. We'll see you then. Until then, adios.